Mayor Garnes, I think we're ready to go when you are.
Okay. As usual, I almost forgot my agenda. Okay. Call to order the special meeting of the Rio Dell City Council. City Manager, would you explain the format, please?
Yeah, so this is obviously another unusual meeting after our last meeting where we lowered the occupancy of the chamber. The governor's issued a new executive order allowing for these meetings to occur over basically over virtual meetings. So this is kind of put together sort of at the last second. We're going to get a lot better at this as we move forward. But this particular meeting, if folks have public comments that they would like to submit for these meetings, they can do so at public comments at cityofriodell.ca.gov. They can also watch the proceedings on via Access Humboldt on cable channel, I believe it's 11, and also on YouTube at their Access Humboldt channel. So unfortunately, with the social distancing requirements, we're having to close temporarily the public access and direct meetings. So right now, each council member is meeting independently from their home, I would assume. I'm in my office, and staff are also on the line from home or from the office. So, like I said, we're going to get a little bit better at this, and as people need help with that, we're going to rely on Access Humboldt and NILEX, our IT group, to help make this process a little bit smoother. But this meeting is a special meeting. We haven't called one of these in a while. On the agenda today are 4 items and a little bit of a balance between reaction to the disaster and also trying to keep the normal business of the city moving forward. So on the agenda today is the adoption of a resolution that would ratify the disaster declaration that the city manager made. There's also a discussion on the rent eviction moratoriums that a lot of other cities are considering, and that was recommended by a local group. There's also a discussion about the council authorizing the mayor to sign a letter, federal and state representatives related to water and wastewater loan forbearance, and then getting back to the normal business of the city and trying to move that forward, a discussion, possible action regarding the compensation study list for comparator agencies. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'll bring it back to the mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Garnes,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodall,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Trying to be here.
okay.
Hello?
Are you there, Gordon?
Here. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Strand
Here.
and Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
And now for staff, can I do a quick roll call for staff as well?
Yes, please.
We have Kyle,
Here.
Cheryl,
Here.
Kevin, Randy,
Here.
Derek,
Here.
Jeff,
Here.
Joanne,
Here.
and Karen. Thank you.
Thank you. And now well, I don't know if we all can. I will stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. States of the
United
Of the
States.
United
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City manager or city clerk, I'm not sure who this to address this to. Are there any public comments that need to be read?
So we did not receive any public comments prior to the meeting.
Thank you. Then we will move on to the first item on the special meeting matters. Adopt resolution number 1449-2020, ratifying disaster declaration. City manager.
To Barnes, members of the council, as the council's aware, this ball started getting rolling back on March 4th of 2020, when Governor Gavin Newsom issued a proclamation of a state of emergency related to COVID-19. On March 11th, the Humboldt County Public Health Officer, Dr. Teresa Frankovich, who's a medical doctor, also declared a local health emergency, and that's countywide, so that includes the incorporated cities as well as the unincorporated county. So we've gone through several executive orders from the governor, and we have also had a presidential declaration of an emergency. And as a result, in our conversations with our partners at the Joint Information Center, with the Sheriff's Office, with Public Health, it became clear that we were going to have a role in terms of the direct response countywide. And so on March 24th, the Director of Emergency Services, who is also the city manager, confirmed the Public Health Officer's declaration of a local health emergency, declared a local emergency due to COVID-19. So we are beginning to track staff time related to this. Right now, it's fairly minimal, as the council's aware. We made investments to city operations to try to keep things moving forward. Those adjustments are listed on your staff report. We have, if you're just here at City Hall, installed hand sanitizer stations. We've enhanced the cleaning of various city facilities. We put new restrictions on access to the wastewater treatment facility. We've researched and implemented at-home workstations, and we do have employees occasionally working from home. We've updated the council's last action. We updated the continuity of government plan for the city of Rio Dell, and we have made modifications to how we conduct council meetings, obviously, and other meetings as well. We've canceled the League of California Cities meeting, which was going to be hosted here in the city of Rio Dell at River Bluff Cottages. We've implemented, obviously, these new teleconferencing capabilities and been on several different teleconference phone calls regarding the virus. We have closed the front counters for both the police department and City Hall. And we've instituted educational efforts through a special issue newsletter that's really focused in on COVID-19. We've also issued a postcard directly to all residents advising them not to flush wipes, which even though the packaging states that it's flushable, they do clog the sewer system, which potentially creates other public health hazards and also distracts staff from their main duties. And then we've had direct communication, including correspondence and just phone calls with local businesses and correspondence to advise businesses to maintain sanitary conditions. We have talked to several businesses about closures. We have temporarily suspended water shutoffs for non-payment. the upcoming of the April billing cycle. And then there's just been a general refocus of what is clearly going to be an increasing amount of staff time on the crisis response. So aside from the actions that we have taken to protect city employees, the city's primary role in the overall response so far has been to support the distribution of information from the county's public health officer to the general public. We've done that through the Every Door direct mailer and other strategies. It's possible we could be asked to assist at the county's Joint Information Center in Eureka, or there may be other involvement from law enforcement, and we'll see. It's really kind of a day-by-day situation. We did just install today a hand washing station next to the bus stop, which is the most used bus stop here in town at Elko and Wildwood. So attached to your packet is the resolution that is proposed for the council's adoption at this particular meeting. If the council does not want to take action on this particular item, we will need to take action by at least day of next week. Otherwise, the state of emergency expires. So the council has to act by Tuesday to either confirm or not confirm the resolution. And then also attached in your packet is the proclamation from the Director of Emergency Services. So with that, Mayor Garnes, I'll return it to the mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone like to ask a question or comment? I see Councilmember Strawn, would you care to? Some reason you popped up, so I thought maybe you raised your hand.
No, I'm assuming the purpose of claiming the emergency is that we'll be eligible for funding or certain whatever might be out there for the city.
Correct. So there is no guarantee that we will be reimbursed, but it's a prerequisite really when you have a disaster to declare it in order to be eligible for reimbursement. So that's really the main focus. It's kind of a formality. The county's public health officer, who is an expert in infectious diseases, has really already, called that, and it's really her lead that we take and that we try to follow and help and assist them in any way. But yes, this hopefully makes us eligible to reimburse staff time, which could be the police department. It could be our even this conversation right now is potentially reimbursable, and other responses to the disaster. We do have a contractor who is under contract, under option for us to utilize if we need to use disinfection services as an example. Those would be reimbursable. The hand washing station that we just installed on Wildwood Avenue, the cost for that should be reimbursable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Strawn. Would anyone else care to ask a question or ask for clarification?
No. I think it's a good, we just need to move ahead with it.
Thank you. I agree that we just need to move ahead, and hearing no one else, and there are no questions from a public member of the public, a city manager, regarding this.
There was no public comment received.
Thank you. Then I will ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 1449, 2020, ratifying the proclamation by the city manager in his capacity as Director of Emergency Services of the City of Rio Dell, confirming the existence and declaring a local emergency due to the COVID-19.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Yes.
We have, the motion carries 5-0. Now we will move on to rent eviction moratoriums and water shutoffs. City manager.
Thank you, Councilmember Garnes. Community Development Director Caldwell is not here at the moment to talk on this particular item. And this is not an action item, it's simply a discussion item. But we are looking for council direction if this discussion is one you want to have, and we can try to bring it back as soon as we can, either on the April 7th upcoming meeting of the council, or we can hold another special meeting potentially prior to April 1st, so either Monday or Tuesday of next week, simply because the first of the month is usually when rent is due for most people. So attached to your packet is really a letter from Affordable Homeless Housing Alternatives Group, which did issue a letter, and I believe this has gone to all the other incorporated cities in the county. As far as I know, only Arcata has acted on this at this point in time, but I know that there are other jurisdictions interested in passing a similar moratorium. Basically, the council wants to proceed. What we would do is engage the city attorney and start having some billable hours with the city attorney to develop this and come back to the council as soon as practical. With that, I will return to the council.
Thank you, city manager. And just for information's sake, the governor, I just got an email from the Rural Cities Caucus through the League of Cities that Governor Newsom just issued an executive order on a rent moratorium for the entire state. So, and that just came through maybe a few minutes ago, right before we started the meeting.
May I ask a question,
Sure.
Deborah? So did he give an end date or a date that we would take a relook at that?
In the governor's executive order, I have not fully read it because it came like 5 minutes before this meeting, and so I haven't had a chance to fully read it. I just read the opening from the league that said that he has issued an executive order.
Okay, thank you.
So if I would assume, I'm not sure if that would supersede anything that we would do, but I don't know if it really gives us more time to discuss it and think about it. So if there are questions that maybe the city manager could answer, or if we want to just wait until the 7th, but then that again puts us past the 1st of the month, which is when rents are normally due. I'm not really sure.
Mayor Garnes, I am right now. So I'm looking at the order, and it does appear that this is going to be statewide. So one of the other things that the council needs to be aware of is I believe the sheriff's department is also not currently enforcing evictions. So there's a couple different things at play here, but certainly this latest information from the governor's office potentially takes this out of the hands of the city entirely. So so what we can do, if the council would like, we can still have a discussion item agendized for April 7th, or bring it back to the council if you want to have us proceed.
So is that acceptable to the council to bring it back, or would the consensus rather just accept as a done deal kind of a situation where we're just going to do it? Or So I'm just actually asking the council what the position of the council is.
Well,
And
do we have any, I mean, if he said we needed to do it, then we have to do it, right?
That's what I would think. We don't,
So
I
it's
don't
out of
know.
our hands.
Right. I don't think that we have the language already written out to do it. I'm not sure. That's the part I'm not sure how that would work. If we would have to actually develop or write an ordinance, you know, an emergency ordinance and adopt it, or if simply agreeing to the governor's, not agreeing, but accepting the governor's executive order would be sufficient.
On just that one item, right?
That's yes, we're just talking
Okay.
about one item,
Yeah, just that one thing about the,
moratorium.
yes.
I could say something. I would just suggest that city manager talk to the city attorney, and it sounds like we just have to acknowledge that we're accepting the governor's proclamation or executive order, but that whether or not we need to do something for the legal long-term reimbursement or any kind of stuff, we just have to go through the procedures. And somebody will give us interpretation here shortly what all this means.
Yeah,
seems
I agree with that. It seems that, like city manager said, the eviction process is a very long process. It would take months, and it does involve the sheriff's department, which I'm sure they're not going to be doing. And I can't imagine any home owner who has a renter evicting anybody during this time either. As the letter states, it urges compassion on the parts of the homeowners. And I'm sure that there'll be much of that happening in our community. So I think it's pretty much a moot point, and that we should definitely look at what the governor had to say, and then get further direction from there.
Councilmember Johnson, do you have any feelings?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Garnes. In the letter from the Affordable Homeless Housing Alternatives, point 6 was the prevent utility shutoffs, and in that it lists not only our water and sewer, but also gas and electric. And I guess I would like to, maybe the city to write a letter to PG&E and find out, are they going to be giving moratoriums for late payment or non-payment of their utility bills.
That would be fine.
If I could weigh in on that a little bit here, Mayor Garnes.
Please.
Under the current state law, the city would, for anybody who requests that their water not be shut off in the next billing cycle, we won't be allowed to shut them off. So we have a little bit of time to discuss the utility shutoff discussion. We don't have to have that conversation immediately or even come to a conclusion on the 7th, because the action has actually already been taken by the state to prevent the shutoff. So that anybody who's in that situation has some options available to them to not have their water shut off outside of paying up with paying their bill.
We test. Thank you, City Manager. So we are going to then, my understanding of what I've heard is we are going to accept the executive order, but have the city manager speak with the attorney and to make sure that however we execute this, it will be the proper way. Is that what I'm getting from everyone?
Yep.
Because I can't see you.
Yes, from Julie.
Thank you. Then we will move on to and I'm assuming there was no public comment on that.
Mayor Garnes, there was no public comment on that item.
Thank you. Item 3 is the letter to the federal and state representatives related to water and wastewater loan forbearance. City manager.
So Mayor Garnes, members of the council, in light of the COVID-19 virus and the subsequent shelter-in-place orders, we know that there's a lot of people in distress financially in the city and countywide, and in fact nationwide. Because of this economic distress, the city is recommending the issuance of a request for temporary forbearance of loan obligations to the state of California. So the savings from the forbearance, if approved by the state, would then be recommended to be applied to a temporary rate relief for water and sewer customers. So the forbearance period is requested for 2 years. The current agreements do not appear to allow for the State Water Resources Control Board to issue these forbearances on their own through the contract. So what we would need to do beyond just the letters that have already been issued to the Water Resources Board is also engage Governor Newsom, engage Senator McGuire and Assemblymember Wood in this process. So the attached letter is basically asking them to help in this process to provide some deal of rate relief. We know that water and sewer are really the bedrocks of public health in this country. And so in looking at it, you know, we had to kind of make a decision about what are some areas where we could maybe see some relief. And in the debt payment category and lowering capital combined, you potentially see a reduction of a third of the bill, of the combined water and sewer bill. So that's what we're really aiming to do. I don't know if the state will be responsive to this request, but we look forward to trying to advocate with the state to make this happen.
Thank you. I think it's a very good idea. I'm sure it would be appreciated. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this?
I just have a question. Would the rate reduction go for the full 2 years of the forbearance?
So that's the idea. We obviously there are a lot of details to work out. We do know that in the disasters in Paradise from the fires up there, that the state had issued some forbearances of up to 5 years on certain obligations that local authorities there owed. So in this particular case, kind of the 2 years is not, you know, it's not necessarily set in stone. It could be a longer period, it could be a shorter period. It's really up to the state.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? You go ahead, Councilmember Wilson. If you have a
I don't
question.
have any questions.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Right. Councilmember Strawn,
No?
Councilmember Johnson.
Great idea.
Then I think then we are calling for a motion. Where are we?
Yeah, Mayor Garnes, this is Johnson. I would move that we authorize the mayor to sign a letter requesting the state of California for action temporary utility rate customer forbearance.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a voice vote, please? Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Now we're on to not an emergency item, compensation study list of approved comparator agencies. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes. As the council will recall, at our last council meeting, we discussed the list that the consultant had developed for the city's comp study. During that meeting, the council opted and stated that they wanted to add the city of Ferndale. So the consultant did write an email back when we conveyed that information to them, which is attached to the staff report. And the consultant was recommending that the council be advised that there is potentially an additional cost, fairly nominal. It's not a fairly large cost of $1,200 to add the additional study. Comparator at, increasing the number of comparators to 13. Or the recommendation would be to eliminate the city of Alturas from the comparators. So with that, I'll return to the council for your direction.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the city manager?
Yes. I just have a comment. I went through and looked at all of the different cities. Most of them are not really close to us. We all know, I think, where they all are, but most of the ones like in Corning, Colusa, and Orland, and Gridley, they're all about twice the size of Rio Dell, and they're agricultural based, and they're bigger economic structures for the comparison. Where Alturas is about the same size. It's a little smaller than Rio Dell, and it seems to me it's more of a similar type of economy base for like what we have, where we're sort of businesses and hotels and those things. So I'd like to see Alturas stay in there. I don't actually mind spending the other $1,200, but if we were going to take somebody out, I would take out somewhere like Gridley or Orland, where they're down on the I-5 corridor. Just my personal recommendation.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember Strong.
I agree with Mr. Wilson that Alturas has a population of 2,540, which is much closer to Rio Dell. And looking at this list, the highest one on there is Red Bluff, which has 14,000 people. It's on I-5. It's not comparable to Rio Dell at all, and I think that Red Bluff is the one that should be removed.
Thank you. Councilmember Woodall?
Yes. When we talked about it at the last meeting, I went with adding the city of Ferndale. But, reading this, the city of Ferndale did not meet the top 12 criteria to be included in the study, with reasons being that they do not have water or sewer billing or provide water services to the residents. So I would leave Ferndale out because it's not comparable. And some of the other ones aren't either, but I understand. But I just think that I would go with leaving Ferndale out.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor Garnes. I wouldn't have any problem of leaving both Alturas and Ferndale in the mix and just increasing the number to 13 and let it go at that.
Thank you. City manager, would it would this action extend the begin time out, or is it just a matter of just saying, okay, and then they would restructure the contract to include it, and then we would move on? And then they would move on to actually doing it?
I think the most important step is really just setting the comparator agencies, and once that's set, then they can begin moving forward. I don't think particularly any action here is necessarily going to lead to a significant delay, but there is an additional cost when you add an additional comparator agency to the original 12 that the consultant recommended. So it's up to the council if you want to add to it. But either way, just a final decision from the council would speed the process along.
Thank you. So we're kind of, um,
I could go with Councilman Johnson, and I could, as long as we left, I could add the city of Ferndale, as long as we left the other 12.
Okay, then is there a motion to include both Ferndale and Alturas? Well, is there a motion to have 13 states in the comparable analysis?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a voice vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And I believe that that concludes our special meeting, other than if there are any reports to report out.
I don't have any reports, but I have a question.
Mhm.
Are we doing, something had come through about meals for seniors? Has that been looked into? Is that being offered?
Do you
Yes.
want? No, there you go.
I don't
Go
know,
ahead.
Mayor Garnes, cover that?
Oh, you're letting me cover it? Well, the city and the chamber and the resource center, our resource center, funded through St. Joseph's, of course, collaborated and to give food bags to seniors 65 and older on an as-needed basis. I guess they can email in and let the city know if they need something, if they need a food bag, and we will try and get that to them on, there's a concerted, like a one-time, not a one-time thing, but it's not every day something's being taken. It's a more of a grouping. And so the resource center gives the bags, they provide the bags, they put the food in the bags, and they bring those to the city or to the chamber, as in yesterday, pick them up, picked up 25 bags. Then myself, Nick Angeloff, and Amanda Carter and her partner took them to the senior residence over on Center, and there are 25 residences, and so we passed them out there. And they were well received, and people were very thankful. And so I believe that now the way it will work is people will email in to the city's website or the city's email site, and the whoever, the city manager, whoever's in charge of that portion of it, will then gather the names, and then with the city's and the chamber's help, the resource center will then issue us the food bags, and then we will get them out to the people who are requesting them as best we can. We cannot, just to be clear, we are not just giving food bags away to every person in Rio Dell. It's for seniors who are, they cannot get out. They are, some reason other than the main reason is that they're 65 and older and aren't supposed to be out. And so that's, I think, the purpose of what we're trying to do, is just trying to aid our seniors because they are the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And get something out to them and just be helpful as a city, as helpful as we can be.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful. And I do have a neighbor, so I will be calling with her information. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So I think if that's, is that all, city manager?
I think that's it, Mayor Garnes.
Okay, thank you. And probably if you saw that, the city manager did do a press release regarding that. And so that should be, I guess, probably in tomorrow's newspaper. It's been posted online, I think, at the new Rio Dell. And I think Outpost, Lost Coast Outpost also has posted it. So that's just information. And thank you all for participating. Thank you, city staff. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much for arranging this, getting it up and running on such short notice. It's really, truly appreciated. I appreciate everything the staff is doing. I'm sure we all appreciate everything the staff is doing. So, and with that, I think we will call it a closed meeting.